Good morning, Gretchen. We're coming to you on this Monday, on the 29th day of December, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter to get to the stories that matter today. The 2026 national budget has cleared both chambers of Congress, reaching a record total of more than 6.7 trillion pesos. And to address public concern, legislators are highlighting the inclusion of enhanced oversight mechanisms to protect public funds from future misuse. A 12-year-old boy was killed after an illegal firecracker exploded in Tondo, Manila last night. Meanwhile, the Department of Health has already recorded over 100 firecracker-related injuries just days before the 2026 New Year celebrations. And following its dominant performance at the 51st Metro Manila Film Festival Awards night, Manila's Finest continues to receive a wave of positive reviews. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first in the agenda. The Senate and the House of Representatives have signed the proposed 2026 national budget amounting to more than 6.7 trillion pesos. Lawmakers assure the public that stricter safeguards are now in place to prevent corruption in future budgets. More in this report.
Both the Senate and House of Representatives have formally signed the 2026 budget report. The budget will be submitted for ratification on Monday, allowing a final review of its provisions before it is transmitted to Malacanang. The deliberation on the 2026 budget have been described as historic, as this marks the first time that the entire bicameral budget conference was live-streamed online. Lawmakers say this move aims to promote transparency and restore public trust following the flood control scandal. In terms of funding priorities, education received the largest allocation in accordance with the law. More than 960 billion pesos have been allotted to the Department of Education. A significant portion of this budget will go to the construction of around 35,000 classrooms nationwide. In the health sector, zero billing in public hospitals remain a priority, along with strengthening PhilHealth. For agriculture, funding has been allocated for the construction of more farm-to-market roads and irrigation systems. According to Senator Win Gatchalian, one of the major changes in the new budget is the detailed presentation of every project.
Imposible na magkaka-ghost project or substandard project kasi ngayon meron ng coordinates. Unlike in the past, walang coordinate sila. So, pwede siyang mahaba, pwede maiksi, pwedeng ghost.
Each government agencies has also been assigned responsibility for implementing its own infrastructure projects.
Yung mga big-ticket infrastructure projects like classrooms, hospitals, mga health centers, farm-to-market roads, kanya-kanyang ahensya na ang gagawa.
Senate President Pro Tempore Ping Lacson says the next challenge is ensuring close oversight of the budget to prevent corruption. He adds that it is time to learn from the painful lessons of 2025 and previous years, when corruption was rampant.
Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Leviste called on the Department of Public Works and Highways to publicly release the files it allegedly obtained from the late Undersecretary Catalina Cabral to help verify the authenticity of documents he previously disclosed. In a Facebook post, Leviste said the DPWH had already submitted a copy of the files to the Office of the Ombudsman, adding that Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon claimed the records originated from a DPWH computer system. The lawmaker said making the files public would allow independent validation of the materials, which he claimed contained details on the alleged disbursement of the agency's budget. Malacanang earlier questioned the credibility of the documents, particularly those linking several cabinet officials to alleged irregularities. The resignation of ICI Commissioner Rosana Fajardo prompted concern among some lawmakers who questioned the body's ability to continue on its investigation. Here is the report.
ICI Commissioner Rosana Fajardo tendered her courtesy resignation on Friday, effective December 31, 2025. In a statement, Fajardo said she had already accomplished her mandate since assuming the post in September, particularly in financial oversight. She added that ongoing investigative and prosecutorial efforts would now be better handled by agencies such as the Department of Justice and the Office of the Ombudsman. Fajardo also welcomed moves to prioritize bills creating a permanent anti-infrastructure corruption body with stronger powers. Despite stepping down, Fajardo said it was an honor to serve alongside individuals who selflessly dedicated themselves to the Filipino people, adding that she is truly grateful for the opportunity. Her resignation follows the earlier departure of fellow ICI Commissioner Rogelio Singson. ICI Chairperson Andres Reyes Jr. said Fajardo's resignation came at a natural point in the Commission's work. He added that the panel will now focus on finalizing the remaining items to be submitted to the Office of the Ombudsman. Malacanang recognized Fajardo's contribution to ensuring that public funds linked to the flood control scandal are accounted for. Presidential Communications Office Acting Secretary Dave Gomez said Fajardo had completed a specific task assigned to her, stressing that her role was always intended to be temporary. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro meanwhile said the administration's anti-corruption campaign will continue despite Fajardo's resignation. Some lawmakers, however, view Fajardo's exit as a serious blow to the ICI. In an interview with The Big Story, ML Party List Representative Laila De Lima questioned whether the commission could still fulfill its mandate following the resignation of two commissioners.
I don't think they can legitimately function because Chair Reyes, even if he's the chair, cannot really function as a commission because it was meant to be a 3-member body and function as such.
On One News Storycon, Akbayan Party List Representative Percy Sandanya said the developments indicate the commission is nearing its end.
So paano sila mag-meeting? Walang quorum, di ba? To establish a quorum, you need 50% plus 1. Mas basic na problem, who will second the relevant motions kung mag-isa lang yung presiding officer? So yan yung talagang ating concern dito sa ICI. Kita-kita natin itong with the resignation of Commissioner Rosana Fajardo and the resignation of former Secretary Babe Singson, talagang nasa ICU na, naghihingalo na itong ICI. Nakaka-insulto naman when they say that they're wrapping up na ganitong kahit yung basic and very fundamental na pangako na bago magpasko, may mga malalaking isda na mahuhuli at makukulong, hindi nila na-fulfill at hindi nila natupad.
Senate President Tito Soto, for his part, said the ICI has already produced enough findings for the DOJ and Ombudsman to pursue cases against those involved in the flood control scandal. He assured that the Senate is set to approve next year a bill creating an independent People's Commission that would further investigate infrastructure anomalies and corruption.
Political strategist Malu Tiquia expects President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s net trust rating to decline further in the coming months. Tiquia told Big Story that the administration's ongoing anti-corruption campaign may continue to weigh on the president's approval numbers. Meanwhile, Tiquia notes that Vice President Sara Duterte's approval ratings remain largely unaffected by the flood control controversy. She says the Vice President's perceived distance from recent issues appears to reinforce public trust in her more than in the president.
I think the public is reading it in terms of she is not part of the flood control mess. That's one. Secondly, when it comes to the intelligence and confidential funds, she does not have that. And third, I think when Congressman Leviste clearly said, I think in one of your shows, that the Vice President doesn't have any project under the proponent or whatever list that DPWH has, that sounded like the people saying, we trust this leader better than the incumbent president.
And coming right up, let's discuss the 2026 national budget with Senate Finance Committee Chairperson Sherwin Gatchalian. Don't go away. Morning Matters will be back after a quick break. Keep it here. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Juan here on Morning Matters. We talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind headlines. The bicameral conference committee has formally approved and signed the reconciled 6.793 trillion peso national budget for 2026 on Sunday. The final version of the general appropriations bill was settled after deliberations between the Senate and the House lawmakers. It was held from December 13 to 18. Both chambers of Congress are expected to ratify House Bill number 4058, which contains the 2026 General Appropriations Bill, in their separate plenary sessions today, December 29. Malacanang said that President Bongbong Marcos wants a thorough review and would sign the budget bill in the first week of January. And joining us now, we have Senate Finance Committee Chairperson Sherwin Gatchalian. Magandang umaga po, Senator. Thank you for joining us again.
Good morning, Gretchen. Good morning to our televiewers.
Okay, first of all, Senator, this is the first time an enrolled copy of the national budget was given to our lawmakers. Do they have a chance? Do you have a chance to still change provisions in the budget? And how does this make the process more transparent?
No more, Gretchen. As soon as we concluded the bicameral conference meeting, I think that was, if I'm not mistaken, a few weeks back, we cannot change the entries anymore in the BICAM report. The staff just reconciled the numbers and then printed out the actual report itself. We also had to do the general provisions and the special provisions. These are the provisions that dictates how the budgets will be spent and the restrictions on the budget. But on the actual numbers itself, it can no longer be changed.
But the purpose of publishing the copy of the national budget is to make sure lang that things align with what was talked about sa BICAM.
Correct. It will give the BICAM conferees as well as the senators and the congressmen an opportunity to look at the report. It's a 4,300-page report, so it's really voluminous. So you have to know which program or which agency you want to look at, and you have to look at. But in terms of improving transparency, we printed the report first so that we can distribute it to our members, and then after that we can do the signing and the ratification.
After many days, congratulations ho, Senator, na ipasa na rin na yung 6.793 trillion budget, which by certain merits is probably the most transparent budget season yet, with the live streaming of the BICAM. What were your learnings from all of these changes?
Actually, Gretchen, it's really a team effort, and I have to thank the staff, the congressmen, the senators for giving their suggestions and also cooperating in the whole process. It was really taxing. Just the BICAM itself, it took us 5 days, and we ended around 1 a.m., 2 a.m., sometimes 3 a.m. just to complete the BICAM. So it's a very taxing process. But the most important here is not only the open BICAM or the live stream BICAM, but also the documents being uploaded to our respective websites. This is the most important. The documents are the ones that give life to the BICAM, and it's important for our constituents to follow the process from start to end. And this is where you will see the movement in the report, as well as who moved those numbers in the report. So yun yung pinakamahalaga, yung mga dokumento. Learnings, many things. First, we followed the old schedule using a new process, and that's seems like it's not the appropriate thing to do. Obviously, normally the reports get ratified second week of December, but this time around it's fourth week of December. So we need to adjust the schedules the next time around.
Oo, sabi nga ho, ba't minamadali eh? Kung may break ng konti, dapat
kasi we need to in our constitution the budget needs to be approved before end of the year, or else you will enter into a reenacted budget. And a reenacted budget is not good for our economy. It will deduct about 0.5 to about 1% to our GDP if we reenact the budget because you can't do anything new. So that's why ano talaga, paspasan yan before the end of the year. And that's the most stressful stressful aspect because you need to approve the budget before the end of the year. So the adjustments will be, we need to adjust the schedules next budget season. And this is one of the most important learnings that we gathered from this process.
But with the way it's going, Acting Executive Secretary Ralph Recto has said that this might be signed by the President first week of January pa.
Yes.
So that's an inevitable outcome, you know, given we're so close to the end of the year. So what will
Correct.
happen then?
Well, because we transmitted the budget very late to the executive. Normally, it takes them about 1 week to review the budget,
Okay.
and that's fair, you know, because you cannot let the president sign the budget right away without reviewing. Even though we conducted simultaneous review with the executive, but nothing beats the final review because you have the final output. So in this case, since we are transmitting the budget today lang, on the 29th, they will need approximately probably 5 to 7 days to review the budget. So that's why they pegged January 5 as the day the president will sign the budget. And if you look at the calendar, January 1 is a holiday, January 2 is a holiday. So for all intents and purposes, government is not in full function during those days. So if you reenact for a few days because there's no government activity, then that's feasible. That's feasible.
Senator, I want to go to the more contentious portions of this budget, which was the source of the delay. No, particularly critics have said that even if it is the most transparent budget yet, there are still pork-like programs that exist within the budget, such as yung MAIFIP and yung AIX. We do know, ito nga po yung ilan sa mga pinagtalunan po. Sabi po ni Senator Lacson, ayaw nga din po niyang pumirma kung yung MAIFIP ay kumbaga hindi klaro kung ano yung provisions of the release of the MAIFIP. How were you able to solve those more controversial portions?
Gretchen, yung medical assistance, no, yung MAIF, but the title of that project is medical assistance, and AIX is financial assistance. Para sa tao ito. So hindi ito mananakaw ng any politicians. Diretso ito sa tao. And we don't have a perfect healthcare system. And as long as we don't have a perfect healthcare system, this type of program is the program that will plug the loophole. I don't claim that this will be a long-term program, but for now, since we have an imperfect healthcare system, the medical assistance is a program that will directly help our constituents. In fact, dito sa Valenzuela, marami siya natutulungan ng mga constituents namin. And also all over the Philippines, dahil diretso siya. So, in terms of financial assistance, the same thing. This year alone, 2025, the value of the destruction brought about by calamities is about 8 billion pesos. So, in other words, 8 billion is needed to be given to our constituents in terms of financial assistance. No, so in other words, diretso to sa tao, hindi to pwedeng ibulsa ng mga politiko. And this type of intervention is needed because of the nature of our geography as well as the imperfect healthcare system that we have. But having said that, we included a provision there. This is a provision that will prevent politicians from using these cash assistance to their own account. So they're prohibited from distributing cash assistance. They're prohibited by putting their tarpaulins and their paraphernalia during distribution of this cash assistance. So bawal sila nandoon sa mga distribution.
Pero pwede po sila magbigay ng guarantee letter.
Hindi sila pwede magbigay ng guarantee letter. It's DOH that gives the guarantee letter. Let me qualify that. No, actually, pinag-aralan ko itong process. It's the DOH that gives the guarantee letter. No, so in guarantee letter, it's DOH that guarantees. It's not the politico that guarantees it, but it's the DOH that guarantees. Now, whether that process is the appropriate process or not, we will have a oversight. We will conduct an oversight hearing with the DOH to see how we can still improve this guarantee letter system, itong medical assistance / guarantee letter system. Because at the end of the day, it's the executive that implements this, and we need to make sure that it's efficient and goes direct to the people. Ngayon, direct to the people, but if you can do it more efficiently, direct to the people, then that's the best.
Well, the ideal setup po kasi is hindi na po pupunta talaga sa mga sa ating mga lawmakers, sa ating mga kahit executive officials, because nagkakaroon ng utang na loob. So is it the proper funnel for this would be the institutions themselves? Nakausap po namin ng DOH, ang sabi po nila, ang proposal nila, idaan na lang po diretso sa LGU. Yung LGU hospitals, yung pera para sa zero balance billing, because for now, it's the DOH hospitals that get cover, but it's the LGU hospitals na nagkukulang. Isn't it possible to do it in that way na diretso na sa hospital mismo?
Gretchen, in a perfect Philippines, pwedeng gawin yun, no? But I was looking at the data, and the health advocates will know this. Our hospitals are 300% over capacity. Kahit dito sa Valenzuela, bigyan kami ng medical assistance para mag-zero balance billing. But our patients cannot get medical treatment immediately because over capacity yung aming mga hospitals dito. In Valenzuela Medical Center is over capacity by 150 to 200%. It takes about 2 to 3 months to get a surgery. So, and if you have a severe disability or severe disease and you want to get surgery, mag-aantay ka pa ng 2 to 3 months to get surgery. So a lot of the patients either go to the pay ward or either go to private hospitals. And if they go to pay wards and private hospitals, the zero balance billing does not apply. They have to pay on their own. And if they use their PhilHealth will only cover 40% of the cost. So the 60% will still be out of pocket for the patients. And this is where the medical assistance will come in. That's why we need to look at this healthcare issue as an entire system. It cannot be looked at with one program or two programs. You have to look at the entire system, because even though you put in a tremendous amount for medical assistance or even PhilHealth, but if you don't have the capacity, your hospital is overcrowded, the LGUs cannot take in capacity. Like kami dito sa Valenzuela, it's only a primary hospital. We don't have a tertiary hospital. Then the entire system will break down. You have to look at both the supply and demand in the entire system.
But what was the reason for the increase in the budget? If you take a look at the House version, yung MAIFIP ay nasa 41 billion lamang, binaba po ng Senado yan at 29 billion, tapos naging 51 po sa BICAM. It's the same thing that happened with the AIC's budget. It was 59 billion in the House, 34 billion in the Senate, bigla po umakyat ng 63.9. At to add to that, yung AICs ho ay hindi ba pwedeng kumuha na lang sa Quick Response Fund? Wala po bang ibang institutionalized provisions that could serve as the buffer for crisis situations na hindi po ganito siya ka-loose in terms of emergency funds? Kumbaga parang may mechanism naman ho to provide for those crisis situations.
Well, Gretchen, one of the biggest reforms that we did here in the 2026 budget is we removed the Sagip lump sum in the unprogrammed funds. The Sagip lump sum in the unprogrammed funds served as the buffer for all of this cash aid and also the other programs of government. Tinanggal namin yan. That's approximately 80 billion pesos. When we removed the lump sum in the unprogrammed funds, we had to move it to the program funds because wala na siyang buffer. So we removed the buffer and we put it in the unprogrammed fund. That's why we see a lot of the programs increased in the program because we removed it from the unprogrammed. So because the reason why we removed it from the unprogrammed because it was abused in the past. Because it's lump sum. they made it the other programs such for the other infrastructure projects such as the flood control were also taken from that SAGIP unprogrammed allocations.
And yet we still have about 243 billion in unprogrammed appropriations. So what would be the guardrails around the unprogrammed appropriations this time?
The biggest change in the unprogrammed appropriation right now is all of the unprogrammed appropriations have targeted expenses. Walang lump sum doon. So foreign assisted is a targeted expense. The CARS program of the DTI is a targeted expense. The AFP modernization is a targeted expense, meaning all of the items in the unprogrammed at this time has direct target expenses. So hindi siya lump sum. It knows where it will go eventually. No, unlike before, the SAGIP is a lump sum. So meaning kung ano lang naisip ng mga executive, doon nila kukunin without any direction or without any targeted expense.
Tinatanong ho natin tungkol dito sa mga social welfare or social aid programs in the budget because si Congressman Leandro Leviste over the past days has revealed na inalok sa kanya itong mga budget para sa aid as incentives ng office daw ho ni Appropriations Chair Mika Swansing. They were offered as incentives, he revealed. What would you know about this? Is this usual na kinakausap po nung appropriations chair yung kanyang mga vice chair po si Congressman Leviste? Is that a normal conversation between lawmakers?
Well, I'm not privy to that story, Gretchen. It's better to ask Congress or people who know about that story. I'm not privy to that story.
Oo, pero sa Senado ho, wala hong ganyang mga conversation na kasi kasama po doon sabi niya, Leviste was handed a document showing a 151 million allocation for 2026 subdivided into different projects. Meron po dito yung MAIFIP, yung Tupad, AIX, Farm to Market Roads, pati na rin po DPWH budget. I mean, what do you make of this supposed conversation?
I have no knowledge of that conversation. In the Senate, we don't have that. I think it's better to ask Congress about that story.
Okay, bukod po doon, meron din po siyang mga nilalabas na dokumento allegedly from the office of Undersecretary Maria Catalina Cabral where nakikita po doon yung allocations po for our lawmakers. When you saw the list, what do you think was revealed in there? There's another supposed list involving 5 cabinet secretaries being proponents of DPWH projects under the ito po yata yung non-allocables, ano? Is there anything irregular with seeing proponents other than our lawmakers on the list?
Well, Gretchen, I haven't personally seen the list. And in my opinion, this type of list should be validated first. If it's allegedly came from Yusek Cabral, but Yusek Cabral is already dead. No? So it's very hard to talk about the list where the originator or the person where the list came from is already not with us. She's already dead. So I think the first step should be the list should be validated. And the most appropriate agency to validate it is DPWH itself, no? Because apparently it came from there. So it's very hard to comment on a list where it's not validated. That's number one. And then number two, I haven't really seen the list personally. No. Again, we have to go back to the authenticity of the list, the supposedly list.
But beyond the list, in principle, pwede po ba maging proponent ang private individual or a cabinet secretary of a DPWH budget? Meron po yung allocable, meron po yung non-allocable. Doon po sa non-allocable, pwede po ba yun?
May process kasi to select projects in the DP. There's a process to select projects, and eventually those projects will be part of the National Expenditure Program. So meron tayong tinatawag na bottom-up budgeting or bottom-up process in which the community, the LGUs, including the congressmen and the private sector will be consulted on what projects will be built in their locality. Like here in Valenzuela, pag January or February, around that time, there's a budget call. And DPWH, our local DPWH, will consult our local government units, the community, the congressmen on what projects they would suggest to be built in the following year. So may process yan. Hindi lang isang tao will say, oh, ito yung project na kailangan natin. It has a process. And the process is participative. So the community will be engaged, the congressmen and the local government officials will be also engaged. And there, they will determine what projects are the priority projects in the locality. And then those projects will be eventually be nominated to enter into the National Expenditure Program. Like in our case, Valenzuela, since we have a lot of problems with our roads and drainages, the local government units and the community will always nominate projects related to roads and drainages. And those are the projects that will eventually or hopefully will eventually end up in the National Expenditure Program. So may proseso yan. It's not dictated by one person and not dictated by one politiko.
Oo. So usually it should come from the ground sa mga tao.
Dapat
doon
it
sa
should come
mismong
from the
community.
ground. That's the process. That's where the RDC, the Regional Development Council, will come in. That's where the City Development Council will come in. There's a process. So, for example, if that cabinet member is a member of a community and he participated in the process, then those projects can end up in the National Expenditure Program. But the point here is the bottom line here is there's a process, and the process should be followed.
Okay. Final question po, Senator. How could the reforms in this year's budget process be institutionalized? Particularly yung live streaming provision of the BICAM, pati na rin po yung pag-enroll ng copy ng budget for scrutiny. How could these reforms be put on paper for the next budget seasons? At what other reforms would you like to see?
Well, in the Senate, we have approved the Senate Concurrent Resolution number 4, and this outlines all the transparency initiatives that we implemented this budget cycle. The live streaming actually came from Senate President Tito Soto. He was the one who included that in Senate Concurrent Resolution number 4. So we will follow this Senate Concurrent Resolution as we go along. And the improvements, we will still, marami pang pwede ma-improve. No? And this is the first time around that we endeavored this type of level of transparency, and there's still a lot of improvements that we can do along the way. For example, on the technical side, it has to be the documents that we will upload needs to be machine readable. It's a very technical item para mabasa ka agad ng mga budget watchers and budget analysts, and not only from the Senate side but also from the agency. So one of the things that we placed in the budget is for the agency to also upload their documents so that budget watchers and analysts can analyze at an agency level.
Basically, it's opening everything to the public. Baka pwede rin maglagay ng mic yung mga lawmakers kasi sabi po nila yung mga bulong-bulungan sa side, madaya kasi hindi naman napapakinggan ko.
Well, those are the things na may mga pinag-uusapan kami na confidential, no? But the main point naman yung argument, nakikita naman lahat, no?
Okay. Maraming salamat for your time today. And Happy New Year,
Happy
Senator
New Year,
Sherwin
Gretchen.
Gatchalian. We have Senate Finance Committee Chairperson on the show today. Maraming salamat. And when we return, we explore a new study revealing that microloans alone cannot lift women nano-entrepreneurs out of poverty. We'll break that down with SENPI President Vince Rapisura right after a quick break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here in One News. A new study shows microloans alone are not enough to lift women, nano entrepreneurs out of poverty. It found that strong social safety nets such as savings, insurance, childcare, and disaster assistance are more critical than loans in helping women in Mindanao survive repeated crises and sustain their livelihoods. The research conducted by Ateneo and its partners revealed that only 1 in 3 women had fully recovered their businesses after the pandemic, as disasters and inflation continue to disrupt incomes. Researchers say women rely more on savings and community-based support rather than borrowing to cope with emergencies, highlighting the need for government-backed social protection alongside microfinance. And joining us today, we have Vince Rapisura, President of Social Enterprise Development Partnerships Incorporated, or SEDP. Good morning. Welcome to Morning Matters.
Good morning, Gretchen, and Happy New Year.
Okay, first of all, sakto-sakto ho kayo that you came after my interview with Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, where we talked about social aid programs of the government. Tell us, what were your discoveries? What spurred on this research in Mindanao? And kasama ba doon yung binibigay na tulong ng gobyerno katulad ng AIX, ng TUPAD, at iba't iba pang klase ng ayuda?
Oo. Sa konteksto ng constant disaster dito sa Pilipinas, no, ang nakita natin, Gretchen, ay hindi talaga epektibo na sa loans lang tayo aasa para mag-build ng tinatawag natin na resilience. Admittedly, nakita natin sa research that loans will help women nano enterprises in the short term, pero in the long run it fails to protect, no, and make this livelihood sustainable for them, dahil nararamdaman nila na nagiging pabigat ito in the long run, no. And sa nakita natin talaga, when shocks are repeated, credit alone cannot lift people out of poverty. Talagang kailangan natin ng mga social safety nets. Particularly, we're pushing for a disaster insurance kasi it's been so long, no, na alam naman natin na we are always in the top 3 sa World Disaster Index all over the world. So kailangan i-institutionalize na ito.
But this disaster insurance should primarily come from the private sector? Tama po ba?
Okay. So very nuanced ito, no, because the disaster insurance is not yet talagang available. What we refer to as social safety nets in that regard na insurance is the damayan system that we have, which is our indigenous insurance, no. What we found out is that women actually appreciate this kasi easy to reach sila, mabilis, and appropriate yung amount na binibigay. There has been a lot of experience on the traditional formal insurance, but nano enterprises find this na mahirap, no, hindi siya abot kaya, at mabagal ang proseso sa pagke-claim dahil sa mga document requirements.
Pero dito sa damayan, parang kumbaga natural instinct lang ho yan na tulungan yung kapwa, yung kapitbahay, yung kamag-anak. Yung po ba yun?
Yes, oo. Yan yun, no? Kasi yung damayan natin, actually, a lot of cooperatives are doing this, and it's primarily driven by a not-for-profit intention. And that's the reason why it's fast and and it's very effective. Yung nakita kasi natin sa traditional formal insurance, when microfinance institutions partnered with them, yung ating policies and regulations that govern traditional insurance are also the same sets of policies na linalagay sa sa mga maliliit na amounts, and nano enterprises find that taxing and very difficult to comply with.
But your study also highlighted the need for government-backed social protection. What kind of social protection would be most helpful?
Yes, oo. So unang-una dito, no, kasi ang nakita natin ay disaster and sickness talaga yung main reasons kung bakit naghihirap yung mga nano enterprises. So we already have the universal healthcare. Admittedly, talagang kulang na kulang pa yan, no. And what we've seen is marami itong overlap sa mga ayuda programs natin like AIX, MIAP, and mga tupad na programs na yan. Ano? And these ayuda programs also are laden with padrino politics. Kaya ang nire-recommend talaga namin ay dapat mas ito ay i-realign at i-institutionalize, ilagay sa existing social safety net programs natin under SSS, Pag-ibig, and PhilHealth para ito ay institutionalized at saka mawala yung padrino politics.
Yun nga po yung pinag-uusapan namin, no? Sabi po ni Senator Sherwin, di pa perfect yung ating healthcare system, kaya because of overcapacity ng public hospitals, people are forced to go to the private hospitals, and to be able to augment the gap, dito pumapasok yung additional budget for the MAIFIP program and dun nga po sa AIX, no. But the proposals that you have, if microloans are not enough, and help us define nano entrepreneurs pala, no? So what bracket do they belong to, and what is the proposal of this study to take the place of microloans?
Yes, okay. So yung nano enterprises, this is a response to the definition of the Department of Trade and Industry na ang micro enterprises kasi ay hanggang 3 million pesos. So from a small amount, 1,000 pesos siguro, up to 3 million pesos. And we've seen that the behavior of those at the lower end, yung mga nasa 1,000 to 150,000 pesos yung capitalization nila, is very different from those that already have millions, no, as micro enterprises. So this category of micro enterprises are described as poor micro enterprises. So yun yung definition niya. So aside from micro loans na yan actually yung talagang pinopromote ng maraming mga microfinance NGOs, cooperatives, and rural banks, ang sinasabi namin dapat ang mas i-prioritize din nila or equal footing would be savings and traditional insurance or indigenous insurance. Kasi dapat these three products will work hand in hand to provide the resilience that nano enterprise need to be sustainable and to bounce back better.
Kumbaga, imbis na mabaon palalo sa utang, dito na lang tayo sa mas sigurado, which is yung savings na may emergency fund kang pagkukunan at yung insurance na maaaring sumalo sa'yo sa crisis. Because as they say sometimes, or many families, it takes one sickness to get them to poverty.
Yes.
Did I interpret that right?
Yes. That's correct, Pero ang pino-point out din namin, hindi po pwedeng private sector lang o sariling sikap lang ng mga nano enterprises yung aasahan natin to build the resilience. It's very important that the government social safety nets are there, easy to access, and really providing them the adequate social protection that they need. So ang sinasabi nga namin, protection comes first before we can expect growth from nano enterprises.
Okay. Sa inyong study, meron po bang kayo nakitang epekto na nitong mga ayuda na nabanggit nyo kanina?
Oo. So in particular, yung ayuda programs na hindi namin siya tinignan, ang nakita namin ay yung indigenous insurance practice. And what we have seen here is kinumpara namin yung mga indigenous insurance practice with the traditional insurance products, which is the microinsurance. Talagang mas pinapaboran at mas gusto ng mga nano enterprises yung damayan system natin, yung indigenous insurance, dahil ito nga ay mabilis, abot kaya at madaling intindihin.
And how much does it take to buy into that damayan system?
Yeah. Usually what we see on the ground is about 50 pesos per month to about 150 pesos per month, yung nakikita natin. So it's really, really affordable. Yeah.
Tapos ito po ay parang pot, na naguhulog lahat. Ganon yon.
Yes, oo. Naguhulog lahat tapos pinaghahati-hatian, Pero may mga innovations din na ginagawa sa damayan to mimic that of a traditional insurance. Kasi sa tingin namin dapat talaga ay pinapahintulutan nating mag-evolve yung ating indigenous insurance practice para makahabol sa traditional insurance.
Okay. Apart from this study, we actually got you on the show also to help us better plan for our finances for the coming new year, 2026. You are, apart from working on social enterprise development, you are also a financial educator, an author, a lecturer, my former professor in Ateneo, and you do have your own YouTube channel. Making content on financial literacy. My first question for you when it comes to this topic is, kamusta naman ang paggastos ninyo ngayong holiday season? How did you prepare?
Yeah. Actually, ang preparation actually, Gretchen, for the holiday season, nagsisimula yan, January pa lang noong taon na ito ay pinaghahandaan na yan. No? So, my family is here actually, and we bought all the tickets through my miles sa mga airlines and credit cards, and also saving a lot. Kasi kami nag-aambag-ambag para ma-afford yung bakasyon.
Oo, pero pagdating sa mga regalo, how do you budget? How do you prepare? How do you set aside money for that?
Yes, alam mo sa akin, Gretchen, I make sure na yung regalo, I don't focus on the financial gifts, yung mga material gifts kung tawagin. Kasi meron naman tayong 4 na love languages. So alamin natin kung ano yung love language yung nireregaluhan natin. Kasi may mga kaibigan ako na ang kanilang love language ay words of affirmation. O eba, edi puntahan mo sila at purihin mo sila, di ba? Or
para makatipid ka na.
Nakakatipid ka talaga. Iba naman ay quality time. So ako ang ginagawa ko sa mga kapatid ko, for example, na na may mga asawa, ako yung yaya for the day so that they can have quality time together. So all these things, pwede natin siyang gawin para hindi tayo gumastos.
Oo. Baka sabihan ka naman ako, ripot ka masyado pag hindi ka nagbigay.
Okay, kaya kailangan talaga natin tibayan yung sarili natin na hindi tayo magpapa-apekto sa mga ganito, alam mo, Gretchen, ang sabi nga, ang natutunan ko this year, sa aking therapy, ang sabi ay, comparison is the thief of joy. Kaya, iwasan na nating i-compare yung sarili natin sa iba o yung sasabihin ng iba sa atin para, we become more comfortable and happy.
Well, on the subject of loans and credit, marami po nagsulputan ngayon na credit lines being offered here and there na pwede ka umutang with this card, utang ka with that card. Is that a good thing for everyone, for the finance sector in particular? What is your recommendation when it comes to that?
Yeah. So sa consumers, if you're using your credit card, my rule there is do not kaskas if you cannot pay in cash. Okay? So kasi ang ating gastusin, ang ating kinakaskas, dapat meron na tayong kinita dyan o itinabing savings para hindi tayo ma-charge ng mataas sa ating credit card payments. Sa financial sector naman, what I would advise them is you have to teach your clients how to be responsible with using credit. Kasi if you just keep on giving them credit and make them dependent on credit too much, babalik din yan sa iyo as loan losses. So it's better na we take care of each other, mas magiging sustainable yung financial system natin with this perspective.
But there's also good debt and bad debt. Like, meron pwede kang, mas magandang umutang ka para hindi ka maubusan ng cash, di ba? When is it good to borrow or good to use your credit card?
Yes. So for me, the only time that it's good to borrow money is when you are going to use that money for a productive purpose. Kung saan ikaw ay kikita or mayroong return yung paggagamitan mo ng pera. Kung hindi ka kikita doon sa paggagamitan mo ng utang, dapat ito ay pinag-iipunan mo o kaya naman ay kinikita mo, para hindi siya maging pabigat sa'yo in the long run.
But if for example, for holidays where I need a huge lump sum, kung hindi ako kukuha sa credit card, what other options would I have as a private individual?
Ipagpaliban ang bakasyon at pag-ipunan muna. Kasi kapag ginamit mo yung utang ngayon, what you're practicing is you're already using money that you haven't earned yet. And that's not a very good foundation for good personal finance.
Okay. 2026, what do you see for 2026 amid all of these economic changes, uncertainty around the globe? Saan ka tataya nitong 2026?
Yes, ako ang ginagamit ko dyan in terms of investments, I have a SEXY framework. S stands for security, E for encashability, X for X factor, which means dapat may social impact yan and positive effect on the environment, and then Y is yield, no? With this framework, ako mapupunta lang tayo sa simpleng mga investment products natin sa government, which is Pag-ibig MP2 at ang ating SSS pension booster. Itong dalawang ito, safe na safe at mataas ang returns, tax-free pa.
What's the pension booster? The MP2 I'm familiar with. Usually nasa 6 to 7% ang dividends niya, no? Does the pension booster work the same way?
Yes, it's actually very similar to the Pag-ibig MP2, yung SSS My Pension Booster, no? So there's a voluntary and there's a mandatory SSS pension booster. So ito ay tax-free din if you leave it for 5 years, and then mababa din yung amount, no? On top of your SSS contribution, anything in excess that you pay on your contribution will go straight to your pension booster account.
Okay, so for those who want to become financially responsible this 2026, what does a healthy portfolio look like in terms of percentages? What should we or where should we put our money on?
Okay, so just follow my budgeting rule, ano? So 5% you should put that for place that as budget for insurance, 15% for savings, 20% for investments, and then the remaining 60%, yan yung pagkakasyahan natin for our needs and wants.
20% on investments, mas malaki siya.
Yes, oo.
Okay. Maraming salamat. Follow Vince Rapisura. What's your channel again?
Yes, it's Vince Rapisura on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok.
He has over 600,000 subscribers on YouTube. If you need some explainers on what you can invest on in detail, better go to his channel. Maraming salamat for your time today, and let's have a healthy, wealthy 2026. We have Vince Rapisura, President of Social Enterprise Development Partnerships, or SEDP. In other news, one person died after an incident involving an illegal firecracker on Sunday night in Tondo, Manila. From December 21 to 28, the Department of Health reported that firecracker-related injuries in the country have reached 112. Metro Manila recorded the highest number of incidents with 52 cases, followed by the Ilocos region with 12, and Central Luzon and Western Visayas with 9 each. Males aged 5 to 14 were the most affected, with injuries mainly caused by 5-star, boga, quitis, piccolo, plapla, and whistle bomb. In entertainment, Manila's Finest emerged as the most awarded film at the 2025 Metro Manila Film Festival, taking home 8 awards. It tied with Call Me Mother for third Best Picture, and also won Best Cinematography, Best Production Design, Best Sound, Best Musical Score, Best Original Theme Song for Sandalan, Best Float, and the Gatpuno J. Villegas Award. Set in late 1960s Manila, the film follows Captain Homer Magtibay, played by Piolo Pascual, a police officer navigating a city grappling with crime, political maneuvering, and declining public order. The film continues to receive praise from moviegoers and critics, with some calling it the boldest entry in this year's lineup for tackling systemic issues, while others hail it as one of the best and most meaningful films of the festival. Better go out and watch those films. The Metro Manila Film Festival, of course, started on December 25 all the way to the end of the year, and we hope to celebrate Filipino films in the process. And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters for this December 29. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Ho. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time.